Hi, everybody. Welcome to the True Potential Do More With Your Money podcast. This is episode 49. It's been recorded today on Tuesday, the 22nd of December, but as a belated Christmas gift, we're going to be publishing this for you next week as well. So we're giving you all a week off the podcast this week. So I hope you had a great Christmas. Hope you had a great Boxing Day, and I'm looking forward to New Year's Eve. Delighted to be joined for the first time in podcast history by all five of the senior partners from True Potential are all in one place today. Good morning, David Harrison, Neil Johnson, Earl Glasgow, and Mark Henderson. So hopefully you've all seen us at one stage or another on a Do More With Your Money podcast this year. But really, for those who don't know who we are, we're the five senior partners at True Potential. We founded the firm back in 2007. And the purpose really of today's podcast is to round up what's been an unusual year in 2020, but also I think give you a bit of a insight into the way we run True Potential, the way in which we look after your money, and just some of our own thoughts and opinions on things. So please look forward to that. That's some bad English and a bad start from it. But I think probably in normal time on a Do More With Your Money podcast tradition, we normally get somebody in from the investment management firm. And I think normally Mark would ask you, but we should really ask a professional instead, and we should get Jeff Casson on the line.
Yeah. And that's coming from a man wearing that jumper.
This is a festive, top-class jumper, Mark. This is
very serious.
I'm the only member of the senior team living the brand at the moment. Jeff's not even living the brand, and he's just popped on the camera. And I know you've got one of those jumpers, Jeff, because I've seen you on the morning markets commentary with it.
I was contemplating running and getting it on there, but just couldn't get there in time.
No, I've marked it down, Jeff. It's noted. So, morning, Jeff. Welcome to the podcast. Jeff, we normally ask you or Mark or one of the team to round up the week. We're going to give you a slightly harder task today. Could you round up the year, please? What's been your thoughts on 2020?
Well, I suppose how long have we got? Because it's been one of those years that we could probably talk on that topic for quite a long time. But I suppose taking a little bit of a step back and thinking about the year, what has the year brought to us? It's brought us dramatic speed of change and speed of change within asset markets and prices. We look back to what happened in February and March time as the COVID news started to come out and really influence markets. We saw quite significant and dramatic reaction in asset markets with prices moving exceptionally fast in a very short period of time. So it's moving through to what was really the fastest bear market that we've seen, with the US market falling 22% in 20 days. We focus on the equity market, but it's the very same thing if we look at the bond market, and that we saw spreads there move out dramatically for governments, for corporates, and for emerging markets over that period. That all did create interesting opportunities, and I'll maybe come on and speak about where those opportunities came and why that feeds into an investment process and why an investment process is important. But then fast forward to where we are today, we've got ourselves with asset markets primarily recovered in terms of the equity market, and we've also seen bond markets come in with spreads now back to levels that they were at before the COVID issues that we've had to experience. So quite dramatic change. What's driven all that? Sort of a combination of the action by central banks and governments to deliver us something that has been really quite different, and something that none of us have really seen in terms of that interaction between governments and the monetary authorities, so the central banks. So some $10 trillion of support given to markets. If we look at that both from a direct and an indirect basis, what does that mean? To try and put some context around it, global GDP at the end of 2019 was some $140 trillion. So 78% of global GDP as an impulse into economies this year, which has helped us navigate our way through to where we've got to today. Thinking about it a little bit more, what's been sort of the 4 things that we as a team have focused on and discussed? It's really what's been driving sentiment, and what's been driving sentiment in markets very much COVID, the fiscal and monetary responses coming through, medical advances, and we really saw that as we got news of where we were getting to with the stage 1, 2, and then stage 3 trial results of the vaccines, and then November, a very significant rotation in markets as we saw the Pfizer news coming through in terms of the strong efficacy that solution had, and that's driven markets on. But I suppose we're nearly coming full circle again, in the sense that we're talking about restrictions and movement, and that feeding through to hurt sentiment a little bit again, and also influence the economic activity, and we're seeing that come through for the services side of things. But I suppose at another level, what does it mean? What does it help us all think about? Well, I think if we'd went back to the beginning of the year and we'd said that there's going to be a global pandemic, the impact on asset markets, we'd have probably all made the wrong choice. We'd have probably all said, well, I don't think global equities will be up this time next year if we're running through that. But I suppose, what does that get me to think about? The role of diversification, staying true to your investment process, which we as a team have done, and the investment partners that we work with have done, and the role of diversification within that, and consistently thinking about the merits of that in building portfolios. And that's, I think, really helped us in terms of the communication that we've had going back to February and March, thinking about the challenges that were being presented then, and people thinking, well, do I get out of the market now? Do I get into the market? Well, actually, just put that to the side. Stay invested over the longer term. Market timing is really very difficult, and this year has shown that is the case, and why one doesn't want to try and time the market, because you could have made a horrible decision on the 23rd of March of this year. But allowing portfolios that are well diversified, exposed to assets across the globe and different types of assets, has allowed us over the course of the year to deliver a really good return for our clients. So if we look at the balanced fund over the course from the 23rd of March, it's up 26%. It's up over a year-to-date basis as well, and it's up on a 1-year basis. The aggressive fund's up 36%. It's up 4% year-to-date, and even more than that in the 1-year view. So it's the importance of, I suppose, staying invested, using diversification, recognizing there will be challenges, but staying true to your investment process and working with partners that allow that to be delivered.
Thanks, Jeff. Earl, if I just introduce you quite quickly on this side of things, because I know you deal with a lot of new advisors who are joining the True Potential group, and indeed with their clients outside of things. I can remember discussions you and I were having back in March and April about advisors almost worried about joining and we're going to time the market correctly. So going back 8 months ago, it seems an awful long time ago. What type of messages were you telling advisors and clients who were looking to join True Potential?
Well, it's a bit like, a dog's not for Christmas, it's for life. I don't know if you can even use that analogy, but it sounded good at the time that, this is your career. This is a long-term thing. You shouldn't put it off, because, we're confident in our proposition, confident in what Jeff does, and confident that in the long term, we'll be the best choice for any advisor. And that's proved to be the thing. I think the short-term blip we had, Daniel, was that people were worried about asset prices and volatility. And I know what we said to them was, look, if you join, and maybe some of them were selling their business to us, we were saying, we'll honour the price if it comes back up again. And I think the thing that was remarkable for me when we did that price promise was that actually, when I checked it in about November time, what I discovered was that not only had the prices recovered in the portfolios, they've exceeded them, right? So what we seen was on the 21st of February, we'd had a really high, and then within 4 weeks, we'd had a really low point, which, spooked a lot of people. Fair play to the strategy that Jeff and the team do. The whole thing came back up and actually went over that again by the time we got to November. And I know Mark always looks back and says, if you had told him back in March what we were facing, that by November we would have exceeded the performance what we had in February. And I think for a lot of people, everybody that came in, every single one of them that joined, A, they're glad they've done it, but B, they're absolutely over the moon. And the stuff we get from clients on performance is great. It's actually the best recognition you get is when you get it direct from the client.
Yeah.
And also the thing that I always say, in 33 years is that nobody ever thanks you for 20%. But what they never forget is that they lose 5, right? And I think the thing that Jeff does, which is keep that bandwidth I talk and that volatility, keep that under control, keep it under check, make sure the ride is as smooth as possible, but maximize the return when you're coming out of it. So everybody that stayed invested, everybody that joined, there's not one of them has one single ounce of regret now that we've got through that part of it and we're into the end of the year.
Thanks, Earl. And one of the things we worked on, when you were mentioning there, Earl, about performance our clients see, the other part that we've worked really hard on this year has been the communication piece. So, Jeff, you've been the leading man really with Morning Markets. You've been on countless of these podcasts as well. So this is the 49th Do More With Your Money podcast we've done this year. But I don't know how many working days we've had to date, but I know you're well into 200 plus for Morning Markets. And I remember, when we were doing planning this time last year, we'd said, let's communicate more often to our clients. Let's give them snippets. So let's not just send them huge PDFs of market commentary. What we wanted to do was snappy Morning Markets videos where it was you or Mark or somebody else in the team delivering 4 or 5 minutes information. Has that messaging changed, Jeff, since January through to now, for instance?
I suppose it's evolved as we've kind of got into a way of thinking about and communicating the key aspects. There's so much, I think, in the morning. The challenge for the team is to distill everything that's going down into 5 minutes or even less of the key messages and try and get it across in a way that we make it accessible to all. Because I think the real challenge for us as an industry is that we have a want to really make things really complex and use acronyms to describe things when there's probably not a real need to do that. And if we can explain it in a way that makes the information that we see on a daily basis useful to the client base, to the advisors, and that they can then communicate that to others in a way that gives reassurance that we're constantly aware of the changes, how we're communicating and how we're discussing them. And I suppose the big change is how we've done it. We spent quite a bit of time in the office trying to think about how we would do it. Yet we transitioned onto an online environment, and we've continued to be able to do it remotely each day, wherever the team are, and we can get that information out to clients first thing in the morning.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point there, Jeff, because it books what would be the popular theory, which is people wanted videos which were more in the office, shirt and tie and things like that. And when I've been looking back at some of the January, February videos we did, they're night and day different to now. And I know that they are in terms of preparation behind the scenes as well. But also the feedback we got from clients when you came back to the office in September and were standing back up in front of the screen and had the tie on, we got a lot of feedback from clients saying actually they prefer you at home. So I don't know if they just don't want you down in,
don't want
the office.
Don't want me in Newcastle the way that.
Yes.
Maybe the government doesn't want me crossing the border either at the moment. So.
Well, we're not allowed over your border at the moment. That's for sure. But yeah, no, I think it's great to see the way it's evolved, and thanks to you and the team for sticking at it. What can be hard work sometimes, because I know there's been some days you and the team have had to go into bat when markets have been quite volatile overnight, and you're almost having to deliver bad news effectively. It's easy to come on and talk when it's good news, but I think it's a lot harder to talk when we've had bits of blips and bits of market upsets overnight as well. So
I suppose that's the why it's important that we relate it back to what we do and how we build portfolios and how we think about the role that diversification plays within the portfolio. So whilst, and it's been an interesting process, because you look at it and you look at some of the headlines that are in the press in the morning and you think, well, my goodness, it says that the stock market slumped yesterday, and it's like, well, what does that mean? Oh, we're down 2%. Well, I don't think that's a slump, and it's about how we communicate that in the right way to clients, because I suppose the media has got to want to sensationalize things, and it's about us as an investment team taking a step back from that, communicating the reality of what is happening, why prices are reacting and moving in the way that they are, and trying to provide the context. I think the language that's often used doesn't give that context. So if we can give context to what's happening and put some words around that makes it clear and understandable, hopefully it's helping to remove that sensationalism out of it and make it that it's actually, when you're diversified and you're exposed to many different assets, many different regions, that's helping that. Not one of our clients is 100% exposed to that market that slumped yesterday. It's just not how we build our portfolios and how we think about that. And it's important that we get that message out there. So trying to bring it around that, yes, if equity markets are weak, we know that bond markets provide diversification to that. That's what's in the portfolio, and that's mitigating that volatility for the clients to see over time.
Thanks, Jeff. And you were talking about the media headlines and sensationalizing things, and I saw David grinning there in the background, because I know it's something, David, we've talked quite a bit about in podcasts this year as well. Now, kind of bold statement, I guess, or not. Would you say this has been the worst year for media sensationalism, or do you recall any other times?
I think it's unprecedented. I was grinning before because I think the reason that people were phoning in about Jeff being in the office was just his cheap suit. They got worried when they saw that here's a man in charge of billions of pounds with a cheap suit on. He got away with it when he was up in the borders of Scotland with his casual gear. I think, Daniel, that answers your question. All of this is relative. I mean, when you talk about the dollar, the pound is slumped. I read that one. It slides. It's gone down by whatever. If it goes down 25%, it's gone from 135 down to 20 odd or something like that. When it moves 1% or 2%, this is the thing about currency, where what you have to watch for is not so much stock market slumps and whatever, it's changes in currency, because that can be quite tricky. It can be quite well hidden. That a 10% move on currency, it doesn't look much, but it makes a huge difference, because it's 10% of your, could be 10% of your portfolio if it's denominated in dollars or sterling. So it can make quite a big difference. Those movements are neither here nor there. They happen all the time. And I think what would be good about this year, increasingly people who have been sitting at home or have been using sort of digital means to communicate or get communicated to, can begin to discern some of the stuff that I think some of the poorer quality reporters and poorer quality newspapers do. And I think newspapers have a responsibility to be as fair as possible. We know they're not. They're never in the history of newspaper has have reports been truly, unbiased. And often in the past, the owner of the newspaper, the owner of the media, if you like, their personal preferences and their personal political persuasions can have a huge effect on who reports there, who the editor is, and even just the slant of the news coming in there. So, we've had some more sensational stuff. The job of us, if you like, is to give you the facts. We can have a laugh. I think that's impossible for us not to have a laugh. We'd have to change our entire demeanour. Certainly the people on the call, we are quite light-hearted, but we're not light-hearted about people's money. It'll be interesting when you mentioned down 5%. When Earl said, the clients are more concerned if you go down by 5%. I just watched Jeff's face, and all of a sudden a very, very serious look on his face, because he understands that. He understands that, look, it can go down by more than 5% or 10%. It's just, if you raid your money at that point, you've had it. And it was quite important when we were recruiting in so many clients, which we've done. We have lots and lots of, thousands of brand new clients, and coming in and transferring money in terms of volatility. What is important is to say to them, it doesn't matter when you do it. It really doesn't matter. It actually doesn't make you richer or poorer. What makes you richer or poorer over the long term is that we get ahead of inflation, we get a return on your money ahead of inflation, ahead of what you could get in any of the best deposit accounts, and ahead of the cost of us managing your money for you. So you put our charges, you put inflation, and you put, if you like, the opportunity cost of where it could have been sitting in a bank account. And if you're well ahead of that, if you're 2 or 3% ahead of that, which means you should be trying to get 6 to 7 to 8% per annum, I don't think anybody could complain. And if they do, I'm sure I could have a chat with somebody sensibly to say, that's what it's about. 7%, 7.1% per annum growth means that your money doubles every 10 years. And that's not bad. That's not bad. You're sitting like I am on my backside, and somebody's working, but I'm paying them to do it. And if my money doubles every 10 years, I'm happy. If you get 10% growth, it doubles every 7.1 years. It's strange. That isn't how it works the other way around. But that's all I concentrate on. And the way to do it. It was funny. I got a nice email from Colin Beveridge, who used to be in the job that Jeff was doing, and helped to start off this whole idea of advanced diversification and get putting together, if you like, the portfolio of managers that Mark has worked with and Jeff has sort of supercharged to get this concept of whenever you put in a pound in, it's split up to 200,000 times across the world, across currencies, across sectors, all of that. Which means, it doesn't mean you can't go wrong. Of course you can go wrong, but we're using well-known names. We're not chancing people's money with people we've never heard of. And
so we're actually, it's not a bad chance to talk all the way back in January when we talked about one of the, or maybe the largest creator of steel in the world, when we visited China. I don't know if they are the largest. David, you're the worldwide statistician. Jeff's nodding, so Jeff's beat you to it.
They are.
Yeah.
I think Jeff might say they're not. Either them or the States. But the worldwide, the largest user of coal, copper, everything that you require a huge economy. I mean, just some little facts, and then Jeff will give you the more detail. But China, 1.4 billion people live there. As of yesterday, coronavirus cases, according to the New York Times, 1.4 billion.
Yeah.
Well,
10.
What they've reported,
Yeah.
27. 27 cases. The thing that gets thrown out here to terrorise us is how many cases per 100,000. So in Northumberland, it could be like 150 cases per 100,000. That means about 5 people. Seriously, doesn't mean many people. It's not a big population. China's got a big population, 1.4 billion. Naught per 100,000. It's a rounded down. It's a rounding out error. You can't calculate it. They don't have it. According to them, they don't have it. I think they probably don't have it. GDP is growing at 7% per annum. A huge figure, and the figure once again doesn't make any sense to us because it's 8.2. It's 25 trillion. Sorry, $25 trillion. That's only relative to, say, US and other very, very large.
I think that for me, Dan, what stood out about Shanghai the first time we got there was the amount of freight that was going up and down the river. The freight and raw materials, it was constant. We went back, we revisited it 2 years later, and it was still going. And it wasn't that they switched it off on the day we flew out and switched it back on just for our benefit. There's huge development going on. And with Shanghai, when, if you remember going back up to the airport on that visit that we had in January, the development was just spreading right out. It was vast. Whereas in other centres like London, you see the construction work that's happening, but it's within a very, very close environment, in the square mile, the traditional areas. Shanghai's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger as the years go by. And that's just one Chinese city. The development there, the use of steel, et cetera, is huge across the whole country.
I suppose that's the contrast, isn't it? You've got the evolution and development of the infrastructure of the economy that is required and needs to happen. But also you've got some of the most sophisticated technology companies in the world operating from China as well. So it's doing both things at once, investing in its physical infrastructure, but also investing in its technology. And I suppose that was the real contrast when we were there, it brought that to life. It's still developing. It's still a relatively young country in terms of what it's achieving from an investment perspective in physical infrastructure, but it's leapfrogging ahead of what some of the technologies that we have in developed economies through what they're doing with the likes of Alibaba and Tencent and Baidu, etc.
But there's a fact in there with China, David, just as we finished China off, and when we're in Shanghai's got 25 million people living in it. Just to put it in context, so when Mark and Jeff are talking about the way it sprawls and things like that, so it's more people that live in Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales by a long way. It's nearly as many people live in England, just live in one metropolis, so to speak.
Yeah, 58 million people in England, 58 million there. I don't know what's in Scotland, 5-6 million. There's about 20 million Scots living in England. So, and there's a few people from Northern Ireland living in Scotland. And there's a few people from Ireland living in Northern Ireland. Oh, don't get involved in that.
Don't get involved. No.
Or is it vice versa?
I'm not answering that.
Yeah, that's right.
But
don't get involved. Yeah. It's dangerous for you. I'm all right. They'll never come here. Boom.
But talking about living in different places, and since we all seem to live and work at home now, I'm going to say thank you to you, Jeff, for all of your work this year. Thank you so much, and thank you for your input today as well. So cheerio for now, Jeff, and Gregg.
Cheers, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. I think we're just going to get Gregg Lang up.
He's got the corporate sweater on as well.
See, I when I look at that sweater, I think of Father Ted.
Are you saying that Earl's that Gregg is Dougal?
Father Dougal.
I thought he looked a bit like Mrs. Doyle.
I think he's tucked to that sweater well, though.
Don't worry, Gregg. We're not live. We're just having a quick pause, mate.
Yeah, he's talking away, but he's.
You told yourself on mute. Like a dafty.
Schoolboy error. Schoolboy error.
No, Billy did it too.
Welcome to the end of year review, Gregg. That's a nice jumper as well. So well dressed. Good to see you're wearing the festive branding today as well, mate. So we've invited you on, Gregg. Really, I know you've been on some podcasts yourself, so hopefully the audience are aware of who you are. But you're an integral member of the team who's helped True Potential operate really effectively when we've been working from home. And I just wanted Neil probably, because we haven't had a chance to let you speak yet, Neil, because we've been very rude.
I wouldn't, Dan, really. I wouldn't advise it.
Well, now is your big chance. So, Neil, maybe if you could kick off with just some of the preparations that the senior partner team did in terms of getting ready in February and March for Corona and as it was called at the time, Corona, it's now just COVID-19, and getting ready for lockdown, and how you and Gregg and the rest of the team worked.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I think it was a quite an interesting time, in some ways a slightly chaotic time, because we're getting all these diverse news stories. And I remember very well, we called everybody together on a Monday morning, a couple of weeks before the main lockdown was actually subsequently announced. And we looked at what was going on, for example, in northern Italy, where all of a sudden they seemed to have a major crisis with hospitals overwhelmed and a sudden lockdown of the whole population, which I think before then we'd never contemplated anything like that. We'd seen it in China, and I think whenever we discussed it, we said, well, imagine doing that in the UK, saying to people, you can't leave your city, you can't leave your house, you can't go to work. It was almost impossible to contemplate, I think. And then, of course, when we saw it happening in Italy, a bit closer to home, you suddenly think, well, this is coming quite close, and they're having to do something very drastic to protect the population in a very short order. So we had a meeting on the Monday, I remember well, which was really studying the graphs across, there's certain research institutions starting to show these graphs of these sudden increase in cases, sudden increase in hospital admissions, and the health service problems they were having. So I think it was on that Monday when we're all sitting around, and Gregg and the senior partner team and the senior management team, we really got a sense of the urgency and importance of what could well be about to happen in the UK. And we're not the only people to have seen these things early, but I think we did, as David's just said there, work from facts. Look at the facts, look at what's happening and what is probably going to happen. And on that Monday, we had a very long session. And I remember things like, we all started getting hand sanitizers out, and people were sort of, there's a bit of humor about people stealing your hand sanitizer. But at the end of the day, we're saying, well, this is something that's going to hit the UK probably within 10 to 14 days, because you can see the way the charts are all going. And us as a business, we have to look after our clients, our business, keep our business going, and what are we going to, what's going to happen with the staff and how we all work. And on that Monday, we did an awful lot of the planning, which was, we need in our business, we have client checks coming in, we need to bank, we have important documents coming in, we need the capacity in the office where we can handle that. So Gregg and his team and the rest of us, worked out very, very quickly, how will we do that? We need all of our staff to be able to work from home to keep everything going and keep that client money safe, invested properly, run. So we were looking at that, and just right across the business, everybody responsible was in that room saying, this is how we're going to make all these things happen if things get locked down and people can't come into the office and work as they normally do. So we had the IT teams, the tech teams saying, well, has everybody got the VPN access they need? Can they work on the system they're working on, productively from home? Can we control that? Can we monitor it? Is it all there? So there's a lot of work across that 2-week period, really, before the fateful Monday night when, Boris got up at about 8:30 to say, right, this is it, everything's locked down, stay at home. The old three things: stay at home, save lives, protect the NHS. At that stage was the mantra, wasn't it? But that was the thing that we were preparing for. And so when that 8:30 announcement came in, we were as well prepared as you could be. But there were even other things, Gregg, weren't there? Such as, for your site 2 coming in to work in the office, what happens if the police stop them on the way in and say, where are you going? You're supposed to be staying home. So on that Monday night, we were producing letters for each of them to carry in from the company saying, you've got the right and you need to come in. It's important for the business and for clients that you come in. So even down to that level. So that was really, I think, my thought of how we prepared ourselves. But Gregg, maybe you want to talk a bit more about specifically what you were up to.
Yeah, I think, Neil, you mentioned the letter. I've still got that letter in the glove box of my car, signed by Daniel, and it is for that exact reason. Since March, very early March, we quarantined 40 members of the office to work in isolation, away from the rest of the business, and they've continued to do that. It's been different members dropping in and dropping out, but in the main, it's been the same course of 10 or 12 people. And our job really is to make sure that You mentioned if a client checks are dealt with the same day to make sure that money's invested as promised, and whether that's a transfer form, a discharge form for an occupational pension. We've got SLAs that we need to meet. But at the same time, when we identified the core of people that needed to come into the office and maintain practice, we also needed to make sure that the other 98% of staff could work from home. And I think that was equally as vital, because yes, we can deal with the administration of checks and physical letters, but also being able to answer the telephone in a time of need. One of the great stats from March that we've got is we answered 15,000 client calls with an average hold time of 20 seconds. And I think in a time of need, that's vital. I think probably most of us and most of you on the call tried ringing companies at that time, whether it was travel companies and what's going to happen with holidays. They turned the phone lines off, as did many of our competitors in our industry. So the fact that we responded by doing mock tests. So, myself, Daniel, Diane, and others, we were doing mock lockdowns. So when the announcement came from Boris, people were ready to work the next day at 8 a.m. as opposed to, panicking and ordering 4,000 laptops, as another company did. We had all of our staff ready to go straight away. And I think, Site 2 is a term we're still using. It's a funny term because it's actually just the office now. Everybody's comfortable and settled working from home. And then we've got a very small operation which each day comes in, opens 10 boxes of post, scans it and sends it where it needs to go to, and then processes it same day, which for our advisors and their clients or our direct clients has really been vital. It's been a real vital part of the operation, Neil. Yeah,
and we've had a lot of feedback, Greg, I think from clients and also from advisors about that importance of answering the phone, answering web chat, all that. The response times have been excellent throughout, and it really does act to reassure clients that everything's in a safe place, being looked after, very much business as usual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think we've had, especially when we're coming into a very busy time for True Potential tax year end, within financial services, it's a busy time of year, March and April, and we obviously reacted in the right way to make sure people could continue to get their money invested. A couple of stats I've got to hand here, but the tax year end, we had 18,000 individual items to process, 18.5 million impulse saved, and 227,000 pension payments processed, all as the pandemic was probably at its worst, when a lot of other people weren't able to deal with, administration requests. We actually went from strength to strength in the very early parts of the lockdown.
Yeah, and I think
when you look at,
I think the the other aspect there is, we didn't furlough any staff. We retrained certain people to work alongside you and your team, Greg, but we chose to keep the full complement of staff fully engaged, making sure everything ran properly.
No, absolutely right, Neil, because I was about to move on to that, because I think in terms of looking after our own clients and our own staff, you're absolutely right. We deliberately upped the game. You're absolutely right to say we haven't furloughed one member of staff. We kept everybody busy or retrained. But David, when we look across what we wanted to do to use True Potential's kind of size and voice, you were the founder member of the C19 Business Pledge, which was off the back of the work which you do with social mobility. And the C19 Business Pledge was all about looking to protect businesses, employees, and communities as well. So, it sounds like a silly question, but why did you want to set that up?
A couple of points. First, add to what Greg and Neil were saying, Danny, that I think we are what's known. There's a great book and there's a great phrase called antifragile, which people would say, what's the opposite of fragile? And a lot of people would say robust or resilient and whatever. But an anti-fragile firm responds to crisis, responds to any shock by getting better. So it gets better. And what this has happened to us, it's sort of, I'm not saying that Gregg and Neil and the rest wouldn't have got to that stage. In any case, we don't know. What we do know is that they're now running a business, you're now running a business, which is better than it was as a result of your actions that you took in the face of, a disruption to business. And our biggest fear, obviously, was that the post office would cease to bring in stuff that, and just for the listeners, around about 90% of a certain type of business required that we sent a mailed pack out to clients. And 10% of that would be, 100% of that business, which is a large amount of business every day. That would be done online, and 90% would be done on paper. And of course, people often these days ignore paper. You get a lot of junk post, junk mail, so it gets ignored, or, and it's like anything else. Somebody tells you to do something today and you don't think to do it for 2 or 3 weeks, then what you have is you forget and you just throw it in the bin, or you think, well, I don't know what it is. And of course, what we all have to remember, everybody has to remember, all paper is generated from computers, and your name and address is on a database. So basically, you're taking that name and address and data, you put it on paper, you're posting it. It has to be opened. You're looking at it, and I'm a great, I use paper. I believe paper and books will last longer than, say, an iPhone or an iPad. There'll be something will replace them, but they haven't replaced these things. So I'm not a techno maniac, if you like. So out of that, that's completely switched. So of that 100% business, now over 90% of that is done digitally, which saves the planet, saves paper. By the way, it saves us money, because it costs about £3.50 to £4 for that pack, because you've got to give everybody the information. But of course, all of that information comes from the database. So all you say to people is, if you click here, there you're going into that same knowledge, the same information that they can look at. If they want it in paper, they can print it off. But it's made so simple that people can get the information. That information's there. It's on their site from then on as well. Everything they do, every bit of support that they've ever needed is stored forever inside their own app, inside their own website, as long as they're clients, and maybe when they're not clients. So I'm pleased with that, Danny. I think that's quite important that we've not only just reacted to, but we've built a stronger business and a faster business, and actually more profitable business, which ultimately gets reflected in how much we charge clients. So that's good. The COVID-19 pledge, if you like, is a spin-off from the social mobility pledge that Justine Greening, the Right Honourable Justine Greening, if she's listening, formed 2 or 3 years ago. The purpose of which was to really social mobility, which nobody's really got to grips with. But my belief is that businesses have the major part to play in that. There's no good training people for a job that isn't there. And it's no good sending money north, south, east or west into areas and just creating public sector jobs. What you have to do is remove the barriers that allow businesses to thrive, provide the finance so they can borrow and securely borrow, so they can, nobody can lose the money. It's not like a gift for designing a website. This is often people have remortgaged their house. So, but we can have money that then grows. When you grow, you need people to help you. And those are the jobs. What you then do is go into the schools and get people to be interested in the world of work while they're at school, while they're at university, provide apprenticeships and work experience, and also how you recruit people is a term which, strangely enough, now becomes a political slogan called a level playing field, which was, I'm glad to say, noted 3 years ago on our website. providing that level playing field in recruitment, name blindness, things like this. So you're forced to look at people and assess if they really what you want. So COVID-19 came from that. There was 300 organisations. The Social Mobility Pledge covers 500 organisations, 7 million people. COVID-19, 300 of those organisations. I always said to them is you've got to keep your business going. Have a think about, it's just an aided memoir. These are grown-ups, by the way. These are proper chief executives and chairmen. He's on, some of them are one-man, two-man bands. But these are COVID-19, Danny was just really saying to people, look after your business, look after your people, right? Because it's not nice for lots of us, including me, to work from home. What are you doing? We've responded. I don't think we've ever been closer as a firm. The amount of hours that we're spending here like this, and the amount of hours that you lot in particular have spent making certain that nobody's forgotten, making certain that people are involved. Whereas in the past, you just pop around and had a cup of coffee with them around the corner. Now, it's not. So I'd hate to live my life like this. I mean, I just would hate it to happen. And I think we've done that. And a lot of these firms have done that. We've also, given the charity, we try our best to ensure that we're not paying the people who run the charity more money than they give to the people who need the money. I think that's so many charities around, the big ones just seem to be a force for themselves rather than force for people.
In the main, David, for all the charities which True Potential and us help, it has to make a tangible output or tangible difference. Earl, obviously, you live across in Northern Ireland, so you've had to deal with the challenges of different government, a devolved government, so different set of rules. You're also having to interact with all of us across in England. You're also having to get to grips with how do you recruit and communicate to advisors remotely, and finally having to get to grips with the digital direct offer technology, which Gregg mentioned. Which has been the most satisfying side of things which you've worked on this year?
Well, probably getting the daily updates from the devolved government, where you've got two people and then two people behind them, two people making sort of hand gestures and that. Nobody's ever told me whether the hand gestures are in different languages but anyway, it just adds to my confusion, because I get confused at the best of times now that the years are rolling on, Daniel. But not everybody in this call doesn't have to worry about that.
We do worry about it, though. We know. You don't need to tell us about that. We can see that.
Anyway, I think that Neil goes back to that Monday morning meeting. We're all camped, trying to work it all out. And I think when David talks about start with the facts, the problem back in March when we were having these meetings, there's very few facts. I think even we were having a debate over hand sanitizer at one stage to say, well, it has to be 70%, and then Neil said, well, mine is. And I think David said, I don't think so. It mightn't kill it. That's devoid of facts is a worrying thing. And the conversation came around about, well, how long does it live in paper? Well, nobody knows. Well, what happens to Royal Mail? Will they touch the paper? And that sort of dawned on me in that stage. Well, my goodness, 70 to 80% of my business is communicated out to clients in paper. And what if Royal Mail decide not to do that? I've got next month's meeting. Sales director, I'll have to get up and talk about the total lack of business come in because there's no paper. And I remember saying to Gregg, because there was something going on in the background with a young lady from Northern Ireland, from Fermanagh, who joined the dev team. She was building what we were calling the Lucy app. And the Lucy app was for internal staff to digitalise the paper coming in, to streamline it. And I just said to Gregg, do you think there's any chance we get that Lucy app out to the clients? Because I need them to fill it in rather than us to fill it in. And that was the birth of digitalising the paper, right? And you look back at the evolution of that. Now we just take it for granted, and that's the problem we have in True Potential. We innovate this stuff and build it, and then we just think, well, is that not the normal? And actually, Daniel, the thing for me is from that we digitalise the course, we digitalise the insight days, we digitalise the communication, and my worry now is we've digitalised that much that the advisors maybe I keep promising them an 1880 reunion. Because Billy Jack, who heads up the operation, wants to be in 1830. reunion, which used to be a holiday I went on years ago, but I'm banned from it now. Not because of my age, my wife doesn't allow me to go. But we're having an 1880, so Billy can turn up as well, and he'll go mad when he sees this. And from that, the digitalization of that offer, and for the clients now on their mobile phone, can understand what's exactly happening. They can execute it. They've got an audit trail digitalized. All the documents are on there forever to look at. To me, it's would you ever go back? No. And that pressure applied on us to innovate in a tough situation for the good of clients is definitely made us stronger. And we've had our best year in terms of people joining, clients joining, and you can just see the difference in terms of getting the digital thing right in the modern era.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg, just before we say goodbye, anything which we've missed in terms of how we've looked after client advisors?
I think probably the big one in the first sort of quarter, Dan, is we obviously launched vNext, which is our new advisor back office system. A lot of companies used COVID as reasons to delay or postpone things, and we pressed ahead with the sort of schedule as normal. So we, in March, put 200,000 client data across onto the new system, using our own, in-house firm first, and then continued the rollout throughout the rest of the year. So we've seen 700 firms, 16,000 users, and millions of clients' records migrated onto the new back office system across the period of the year. And I think, you don't have to look far in our press to see migrations going wrong. So we successfully migrated our platform, and then this year have obviously migrated our back office, seamlessly. Really, it's a word that gets used too often, seamlessly, but we did generally move across all of our firms onto the new software, and it's been a big milestone for us, really, getting across to vNext, and it kind of does get overlooked sometimes when you do things on plan. Normally, it gets overlooked, never mind in a world where everybody else is using it as an excuse. We just ploughed on, really. So we kept our kind of core team of developers pointed at that, got it launched, and I think that's been, for me and my team, a well done to them for keeping on schedule and as planned with that, Dan.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, Greg, I think, because far too many organisations, not just in our industry, are still blaming COVID now for things. So I've got a bank, one of the top banks in England, or Britain, by the way, as well, still on the front of its homepage, we're experiencing service and delays. Please bear with us because of COVID. And you say, no, you've had 9 months now. That's just admit you just deliver a crap service, and just let's just be honest with it. But yeah, I think it's far too many organisations hide behind poor levels of service and delivery because of COVID. And I actually hope they get found out properly, and I hope people fall to their feet with things like that, because I think we're past that point now.
Problem is, Danny, is just certainly with banking, lack of competition.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is what the regulator needs to be aware of. Too big to failed. We need more banks. We need more competition. We need more. And the term challenger bank, as any of us know, in financial services regulation, just as a joke, you need, Germany, 500 banks, Britain, less than 10. This is the point, that you can't, clubbing together means that you can end up with a very, very bad situation, which is what happens in Britain. They've no need to change your thing, because where are you going to go? You're going to be back there in 5 years' time. Just keep going round different special offers, and so on and so forth. So competition required.
Well, Greg, on that note, thank you very much, mate, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks. So we're just going to move across now, and I'm going to invite Steve Hutton to join us. Steve Hutton is the Chief Executive of True Potential Wealth Management. So welcome, Steve. Steve, again, another person who's been on the podcasts before. And Mark, you've been quiet for a little while. We've been leaving you out, so apologies for that, Mark. So I wonder if maybe you and Steve could talk a little bit about how the investment management firm have been interacting with advisors and the way in which the advisors then in turn have been interacting with the clients.
Yeah, sure, Dan. And I think it's worth, just going back to February and March, really, which is when the support levels of contact with Steve and the advisors in wealth management and also those that Gregg looks after in TPAS really had to step up, because we were getting a lot of information coming in, and we can look at it and we can assess it in a professional way. We can take an impartial view and then try and convert that into a language that our clients will understand. And that's not to be cheeky. It's just a lot that comes in is technical, and it's hiding quite a lot of the main detail. So what we did was we significantly increased the contact between True Potential investment management firm and wealth management. We began by having, across the group, we had daily webinars. The investment management firm were holding them 3 times a week, Monday, midweek, and at the end of week, just to keep everybody up to date. And it was welcomed by advisors who could take the messages that we were putting forward and giving it out to the clients when those clients were requiring a type of a bit of comfort, a bit of understanding, and a bit of interpretation as to what was going on. And Steve, I know that you and I co-hosted many webinars, particularly February time and going into March. It was a bit of a double act.
Yeah, hi everybody. Hi Dan, hi Mark. It was an interesting time, wasn't it? It was the time when the fact that all our digital interaction with clients came to be of maximum use. During the sort of latter part of June and July, it was 30,000 year-to-date client reviews. So that's 30,000 of our clients been having an online meeting with their advisors and getting their policy reviews done and getting communication. The fact that we were doing the podcast with our advisor every week, and also that now our websites were fully being used by our clients to access and use these validations of their policies, I think really came to the fore. Even one of the industry studies, a company called Lang, rewarded us by making us the winner of the COVID response survey. We had the best marks that they've ever seen for any of their surveys and any of their responses. So it really bore fruit, all the work we put into making sure our digital technology was embraced by our clients, their individual client sites, but also that our advisors were making sure that their clients were using it, because volatility, as you said, in the market was still quite rife in July. And it was also a time when the government started to release everybody a lot more. If you can think back, it seems a long time ago now, but we were all getting released. Swimming pools were open, believe it or not, and which something that I really enjoyed. Bingo halls opened again in July, so I could go out on a Friday night again. So it was a strange month because they released us all, and they started to tighten up a little bit at the end of it. Throughout it all, we kept this dialogue going with our advisors and our clients using all the technology, and it really started to bear fruit. The interesting point for us was July historically is quite a busy month for us because we have a lot of self-employed payments on account. So a lot of people have started new policies in July. So a lot of these came up for review, but we managed to cope admirably with these. And as I say, we completed a huge amount of reviews year to date, but through the month of July. We also, and I'll stop rambling in a minute, but we also had, it was also a time when a lot of our competitor firms were actually starting to really fall over. March, when it all started to happen, it became more and more attritional. And by July, a lot of our advisors were getting really fed up with where they were working. And we had 34 new advisors just in True Potential Wealth Management alone join us in July. So it was superb, really. We started to really make strides into making people understand that they had to have a digital technology base that wouldn't fall over during these times.
Yeah, and I think also that from the platform side of, we increased the technology offering to the clients by bringing forward valuations, so that when fund pricing occurs at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, it can sometimes take 24 hours. If it's a US fund, it can take a little bit longer than that for the valuation, the latest one, to be reflected in the market, in the wider view. But with the True Potential funds, the technology that we have meant that as soon as that price was published, a client could go onto the website, look at it, and see what had happened that previous day and how it had affected the funds. And then that takes us right back to what we designed True Potential to do, where clients could get a hold of information, the relevant information to them, be informed to the detail that they want to be informed, and then take the relevant steps. And I think, Steve, also what we saw in the investment management side and on the platform is a lot of the work that the advisors had done with clients to introduce them to the technology and show them how to use it really came to the forefront in the first quarter of this year. And we've seen that continue all the way through to where we are now in December.
Mark, what would you say?
It's really interesting. Oh.
Sorry, Steve. No, please go.
No, Dan, I was only going to say it's really interesting that, there's as a client myself, as well as someone who leads things, it's really frustrating when you've got an account with somebody that you can't access, whether it be your electricity or whatever. With your financial matters, it's absolutely crucial that you're kept fully informed. And, we've been having our sort of banging our drum and being at the vanguard of proper technological developments in the financial services industry right from the beginning of True Potential. But it's only this year, I think, that the real benefit has been fully understood by our clients, because doing exactly what you say, when markets are volatile, if they were getting a paper statement once or twice a year, can you imagine how frustrating that would have been for clients? But now they can log on 24/7, get an up-to-date opinion. If they need to use the hybrid aspect, they can call their advisor or call us at head office, and they get a proper explanation of what it is. And I think that really has assisted us. But it's also, as I say, it's brought more people to want to join us, because they must have been getting so frustrated with the tech at other companies. And we know just from our industry, media, that a lot have fallen over and are having major problems, whereas ours has gone from strength to strength. Everything we do now is digitalized. Even the advisor training courses we run are now online as well. And we moved seamlessly into it. We didn't have to sort of shut up shop and stop talking to people for a month while we suddenly got our act together. We ran seamlessly from the 23rd of March onwards and into it. We'll go from strength to strength now, because it's not just that we did it and people can catch us up. They'll never catch us up, because they've fallen over and they'll have a whole backlog of trouble to deal with now. They'll never catch up. And we can just keep going from strength to strength. So, I would have, people, if you have friends and clients and relations in other companies, please feel free to tell them, how good your experience has been during this time, because they won't be having the same experience, I'm sure.
Well,
sorry, Dan.
It's a great point, Steve, actually, because Neil, you and I were talking just last week about you played the dangerous game of referring some friends into True Potential. So yes. It's a good way to, if Mark brings the investments down, you've lost some friends. Yes. So you have to obviously pick your victims wisely. But I think you had some great tales you were telling me last week, Neil, from your friends' experiences.
Yeah, I mean, it's something new every day. Accountants are allowed to have friends.
Well, when I say friends, they're more business connections and contacts, David.
Victims.
Than friends. I wouldn't.
The result of all that networking, Neil.
That's right, Mark. All that networking over the years has been very productive for me, as you can see.
Do you go swimming in rivers?
Yeah, I'll probably be doing that later, David.
That's what the middle class have been doing during the lockdown.
Yeah,
go wild swimming and a bit of doing all that kind of thing. You haven't got shorts on as well. It's because it's a bloody winter. But you see a lot of them dancing around with shorts on and things like this, and because the middle class, not that you're middle class, you're very, very, very much upper class. So I wouldn't talk to ordinary accountants if I was you.
Well, now and again I have to lower my sights a bit, David, but just to get a few clients into the funds and earn us a few pennies as we come through the year. So I had to resort to that. But I think interesting the feedback I get, because I do get feedback as I see these people, and they let me know how it's all going. But a particular one, somebody transferred all their pensions across to us, and quite a sizable sum of money, but he was coming through on the web chat with some of our head office people, and what really struck him was that it's real people responding straight away. So straight away when he's asking a question or saying hello, somebody's saying hello back in quite a friendly tone and saying, what exactly can I help with? And then he maybe asks some questions about his pension, and they'll either come back straight away and, you know, tell them all about that, or, you know, it maybe they'll say, oh, I need to check with a technical contact. You know, I'll come back and let you know. But just a very friendly tone. And he said, you know, whenever I go on with BT or anything else, you know, it's some robot trying to read my messaging and trying to come up with some sort of logical response. But it's obviously a robot. It's not a person. And straight away it switches you off and you don't get through. And he said, you know, as soon as I've got a question, as soon as I've got something I want looked at, it's done, you know, immediately. It's straight back to me. And you know, he just prefers to go on the kind of web chat rather than ring, but, you know, equally he could call. So I think that was quite, he said it's very striking the way you approach the client relationship as a very human relationship, not just some machine coming back. You know, it's something that he really, really appreciated at a time when he was looking at some things around his pension and just wanted to know, you know, how are things placed. So I thought that was quite a differentiator for us. And other clients I've had have been, you know, delighted. I think Steve there has just mentioned the annual review, which, you know, those coming through wealth management with the advisor, they've recently had their annual reviews, and they said just at this, you know, what's been a sort of volatile year, it's great to just look over what I've got, where it's all sitting. Do I need to make any changes? You know, is it all what I want going forward? And it's just a nice process to have had that, you know, a bit of formality of a review at least once a year, or when they need it, but once a year, just take stock, see where they are. Does it all make sense? Do we need to make a change? And then we move on to next year. So I've had, just in the last couple of weeks, I've been having that sort of feedback from people I know. So, and I've introduced and they're invested with us. So it's quite, I think it's interesting to see. And Steve's made the point there, you know, they've also said, well, you know, I've got stuff with, you know, a big life company, and I'll be looking to get a piece of paper out of them at the end of the year with any information.
Well, the same's happened to Steve as well when he's been getting clients down at the bingo hall. You know, when he's been, well, you know, people think he's going to be bingo, but he's trying to get extra clients for himself down there, which really, you know, everybody has different levels that they go at.
Do you sign them up with your dabber, Steve?
Well, exactly. You all know I live in a part of the world that's keen on bingo. Yeah, so eyes down. We'll begin with my next point, if you like. One of the points we're making, Neil, and I think we've made it all year, and we get making this when we're talking to clients and reminding them on their websites not to play bingo, I hasten to add, but to use their tax allowance. In beating the drum about this, make sure you always use your tax allowances, and you know, because we're doing them we're doing them a good service by reminding them of that, because these, you know, they're annual, they go away. There's not many that you can use it once you've missed them, and I think we successfully got that message across this year to all the open air swimming pools and bingo hall attendees throughout the country. So I consider that a job well done.
I think, Steve, link with the technology with that. You know, really good point, because our impulse save technology from clients and advisors got nearly £19 million worth of new business, which came on just before tax year end. So that was £19 million getting invested into tax incentives, which would have been lost otherwise from there. So I think that's a good point. One would almost walk past earlier on there, Steve. So well said. I think, and on the annual suitability review side of things, Mark, do you know of any clients who may or may not be on this call who do the annual suitability reviews and then delicately unpick their handily picked portfolios?
Yes, I do, Daniel. And it's the one that you can virtually put a note in your diary that you've got to run around and say to the operations team. A certain member of the senior partners may have done his own annual suitability review, and he may well have done his risk assessment, and he comes out at being a very aggressive investor. But we have portfolios in place for other investors. So for God's sake, don't move them He didn't. That wasn't really what he intended.
So the good news is, ladies and gentlemen, when you change your annual suitability review, if it changes, we're watching, by the way. And then Mark and his care and sharing team are always looking out for you.
He's quiet, Dan.
Oh, was it
I
me?
haven't said who it is. So
I think that
if somebody speaks, you'll give the game away.
You should always, whoever it was, you should always remember, you should always obey what the client says. You know, you might have a view as to whether they're an aggressive investor or not, but they filled out that questionnaire and they didn't just go, yes, 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 yes. They thought about it. It took at least 2 minutes to think about it. They become an aggressive investor. But I think I'd been listening to politicians and I just became very aggressive. Oh, I've said I. It must have been me.
That's right. The curtain reveals.
And I just went down, bumped in a couple of my accountancy friends, went for a swim in the river, jumped out, went into the bingo hall, had that big felt pen, signed it with a big felt pen like that. That was it. Do you pay tax on bingo proceeds?
No, the winnings. Gambling winnings.
Well, there's a link. We should have like a bingo app on the phone, right? And that money should directly go, any winnings should directly go into an ISA. And it'll be called a BISA or something like that.
Or an impulse bingo.
Impulse bingo. I think so.
Or e-bingo, the way we name many things.
Well, it'd be like playing e-bingo, smoking the e-cigarettes. In I'm from Bradford.
We could say that bingo gives you wings, couldn't we? Is that a phrase that's ever used in
No, it's wing
advertising these days?
Luckily not.
So,
Steve, before we say goodbye,
I think they're all
anything else to add?
again. All right.
Oh,
Sorry, just I think they're all closed again now. I'm in tier 3, so I'm having to do online bingo and other things.
You could pop across the border, Steve, though, to like York, somewhere like that, because they're tier 2, aren't they?
Yeah. It's like Earth Society living in York. I hope this has been recorded. Yeah.
You can imagine Steve listening to one of Boris's announcements. Like, you'd get a line, wouldn't he? You go, tier 1, dum, with a dabber. Tier 2, there's another number gone. All the way up to tier 4. Line.
House.
It is a bit like that, isn't it? Mm.
Well, Steve, we'll say thank you and goodbye at this stage, mate. So pleasure having you on the podcast. Good luck with the bingo. You can play online as well, Steve, using the internet. So there's a good website out there called foxybingo.com, Steve.
Well, thanks ever so much for that. I'll no doubt keep you all appraised of how I get on.
Yes, yes, please. Thanks, Steve. Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Grand. So I think we'll bring our last guest on, ladies and gentlemen, who is Jamie Sexton, and Jamie works in our pensions team. So he helps give advice about different types of pensions out there. He also works with Steve on our client advice team as well. So
looks funny there, doesn't he?
God bless him. Well, here he is. That photo of Jamie was taken before he became a father, so he looked fresher faced and more red of hair, Jamie.
Yeah, I'm definitely a silver fox now, I think.
Well, just silver. I wouldn't say the fox bit. That's up to the audience to decide.
He's still living in Berkeley barrio. The barrio.
I just described it as Berkeley Bronx actually in my holiday request, so it's
right. Okay.
It's more like that. I should have put my jumper on, Dan. I didn't realise.
Well, the only one who's put the jumper on today has been my good friend Gregg. So Gregg's on the good list today.
Yeah,
nobody else.
Sorry.
Not a mass, as you would say in the Berkeley barrio. Earl and Jamie, I think I'll hand across to yourselves, because I think, Jamie, that this year you and Earl and the rest of the pensions brains at True Potential, you've been busy, haven't you? We've been looking at DB schemes. We've been looking at the changing of rules. We've been working with more clients than ever, I think, to understand pensions freedom and how they can avail of that.
Yeah, Dan, I'll start this from an occupational pension transfer point of view. We've had a very busy year. Obviously, lots of clients who are potentially being made redundant, quite sadly, but want to look at their pension options from some of the bigger firms. So we've had to deal with quite a lot of that, as well as rule changes during the year, which is changing the way that our regulators has asked for additional information that we have to sort of look at and compare for clients. So some big changes from the occupational pension point of view. Regarding the drawdown, in terms of pensions and how we facilitate that, we implemented an online feature in the middle of the year, which has been pretty successful from our perspective, giving clients the option to facilitate their drawdown online, which has typically been an over the phone request. And from my experience with clients, they preferred that. They log in, they can request their money when they need, or they can ask clients for advice. And that's been a really successful thing from a pensions drawdown point of view, and actually quite exciting for us to get that over the line. It's something we've been working very hard on for us. Regarding the I suppose the advice, I was looking. I thought I'd get some stats actually, as you do get some decent stats of what we've done with clients this year, and there's some astonishing figures that we shared this with our advisors, as you know, yesterday. But we've actually had within True Potential Wealth Management, so the wealth management arm, we've had over 2 million logins into client sites. And what I found particularly interesting is the balance of people going from client sites, which is where they can access it from a desktop, to mobile. So 1.2 million mobile logins over the year, which is fantastic for us. And watch this space for next year. We're updating the app on the mobile, but I think it really just shows a sign of the times in terms of how people are engaging with us.
Well, just out of interest, so David, do you use mobile or the web as your primary browsing tool?
I think it's about, because I've been locked in, Daniel, I think that's, or locked down, it's probably about 50-50 at the moment. But increasingly, I mean, for example, for my online banking, I need both. So it needs to check my face to make certain I'm doing things. But that's moved dramatically towards mobile, and the ability to do everything on a mobile. My constraint is I've got to put glasses on, to read the thing. So you're struggling. If I could find a way, maybe in the future somebody might introduce something like laser surgery or something. I know it sounds far-fetched, that can drill into your eyes and do something with your eyes. But until that day comes along, I'll probably have to use these kind of things. Can I just ask a question? We've got Jamie on there, Daniel, as well. So, Jamie, I'm just looking over your shoulder. Is that an exercise bike behind you?
It is. I mean, you've seen us on it, I think.
Have I? I didn't know if it was that you moved it around so we can't really see.
He put his head in the way of it.
Because Earl was thinking, because he's from Northern Ireland, he was thinking it was a pulpit. He was thinking that's when the priest comes around, right? And you've got to kneel in front of that, and he'll give you like pieces of wafer. It gives you like a poppadom, and you've got to pretend that poppadom's Christ. Then he gives you some dodgy wine, and you've got to pretend that's blood. Just don't forget that, But he could do that, couldn't he? Instead of like bringing his pulpit around, he could just sit in that bike, couldn't he? And then he could kneel in front of the exercise bike and be blessed by the Father. You think?
I'll give him a ring this afternoon and we'll try it out.
He'll know about it. Just fire that. Just say, dismiss God out. I don't want to go up to God, which is the internet, and back down. Just Father Miggins, just give him a bell. Just say, listen, You only got like 4 or 5 days a year you've got to work. I know you've got a couple of busy days coming up, but you just pop around and bless me. Is that one of those ones that cost you a lot of money, where you get some daft bugger from New York going, go on, go for it?
Potentially.
That's not a pallet bike, Jamie.
It's not. I've got the new Apple Fitness though, which is pretty much that, which is good.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
So if we go back the question, so David's 50-50. If we could maybe get you an iPad, David, that's like a big phone, and you can just look at that all of the time. But Earl,
it's hard to put in your pocket.
You get yourself a man bag, David, and carry it around with you. Trendy.
Do that.
Earl, are you more of an app user or a web user?
I think mobile now, Daniel, and the only reason is because the memory's going, and that's what my wife keeps telling me. You just have to look at it, and it opens up. So to me, the facial technology opens all up, and then that's it. Because I can't remember anything these days at all. But mobile for definite. And now that Steve Hutton's announced that we're getting a bingo app in the mobile app, that's me.
Yeah.
We like a bit of bingo over here as well, as you know.
Yeah. So there's a convincing vote for mobile for Earl. He can't remember why he's answered that question, but there we are.
What did you ask?
Yeah, exactly. Neil?
I think about 80-20 Pareto principle in favour of the mobile, Dan. I think most of the time it's the mobile. Occasionally have a look on the website to see all those great charts and study some of that, but mainly it would be mobile access.
And Don Hendo?
Same as Earl, Dan, mobile. And it is surprising how quickly you forget passwords, usernames and passwords when you've got the facial recognition on there. As a team, we've just got the latest iPhone, and we transferred the apps across, and of course the banking apps with the security in there don't transfer the password.
Forgot it all, didn't
over.
it? Yeah.
So I had to phone the help desk last night to try and remember what the username and password is, ready to set up face recognition again.
Did you feel like a silly sausage having to ring the bank, Mark?
I felt like a real silly sausage.
I thought he was phoning another help desk. I thought he took it that bad.
I was phoning you.
Phone the Samaritans up.
And Jamie, as usual, you're no help.
Oh, thanks.
Jamie, when clients phone us, the options they've got, they can contact us using live chat. They can contact us, traditionally on the telephone. They can also video call us as well. And I think that, is it fair to say that the video calling side of things has become more prevalent, more common now?
Yeah, I was looking at this. So the live chat and video calling's the sort of same feature. So the clients, when they go on the live chat, they can come up and speak to someone. And that this year we've done 12,500 sort of video live chat features, which is really excellent. And over 3,000 demos as well, actually, on the website. So live video demos with clients. So it's starting to become it's becoming the norm. Where people, they just want a quick query, they want to know something, they just go on the live chat and just pop up, and one of the team will help them, which is clients really like.
And I know it's been an interesting case study, because the technology by default just shows me or you or Rebecca or one of the call team there. It doesn't show the client.
Yeah.
Are clients clicking their cameras on?
Not all the time, Dan. I think some of them do, which because they've got used to the sort of Zoom. But it's probably 50-50 to be honest now. It's probably 50-50. I think it's starting to become normal for people to getting used to Zoom and these sorts of programs now. This is just the norm.
Well, that's it. I suppose we've had 9 months of meeting and working like this now, haven't we?
Yeah.
Probably what I find, just talking in lockdown and in general about video calling, is that come the end of the day, I'm more tired working like this than what I would be working in the office. And I think I'm probably not alone on this call. I very rarely do anything social using this. So you often read newspapers or online about people who have like Friday night quizzes or drinks or whatever with the pals or the family. And I've hardly done any of that during all the lockdown. And the reason why is I've probably spent 6, 7, 8 hours that day looking at a screen, talking to people, and I just want to sit in a dark room by the end of the day. I've had enough of video call. I've had enough of a screen by then.
Yeah, there was something on BBC this morning, which is there's a saying for that, which is Zoom fatigue.
Zoom fatigue.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're tired of
Well,
being
it'll
online.
be a new one. There'll be a pandemic of Zoom. It'll be unprecedented levels of Zoom fatigue pandemic.
I must admit, when we said the second lockdown coming, the first thing I texted all my family and friends is out there was no way I was doing another Zoom quiz.
Well, you got through some of the first Zoom quizzes, Jamie, because just behind you, you've got a fridge.
I do. Lots of beer. That was the first purchase within a week of lockdown. And then further down, which I'll not show you, there's about 70 cans of beer ready to be put in there. So.
Is that just for the priest when he comes around?
Yeah, it's best to get us drunk first.
Get him drunk first. Get him drunk first so he gets you into heaven. You kind of, it's not the other way around. Unless he approves, you're not going to heaven. That's the thing.
I'm just concerned that Jamie thinks he's in a lock-in, or the wife locked him in that room and he has to survive there.
Well, I think Jamie, along with David, put some of the longest shifts in, isn't that right, Jamie? We're being locked down even.
I think I went from March to about July. I hadn't been in any shop, supermarket, anyone's house but here. I had literally been outside and indoors. Yeah. And then I started to venture out a little bit in July.
Is that the restraining order, Jamie?
Yeah, that's because the tag on me ankle. I think that more than the lockdown mark.
I tell you what, I'd worry more about the tag on that priest's ankle.
I was trying to make a nice point, Jamie, because I was going to say, because it's been well worth it, because obviously your wife and you were shielding because your wife was pregnant. So how old's Jack now?
Jack's 3.5 months now, so he's it was definitely worth it. I think I was saying for this year, for me, it's been a hard year, but actually it's probably been the best year. Yeah. Just having my first son, so it was definitely lockdown was hard, but definitely worth it. I definitely got a good gift in September.
Best reward from it, mate. Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Good. Well, we'll let you escape, Jamie. It's lunchtime. You've got to go and do some miles on your bike, so you can have a can of lager after that.
I'm off to listen to an American Spurs on.
All right.
Sorry, I thought it was a Spurs joke because I don't talk about Spurs because they were very good. Now they're not.
Thanks, everyone.
Still okay. See you, Jamie.
See you, everyone. Thanks.
So I think, gents, we could probably spend a lot longer picking on people and getting them to phone up, but I'm conscious of our time, but also of our poor long-suffering audience as well today. I think 2020's been a year. It's been quite the year. It's been well, as David will say, I'll not say unprecedented because it's on the legal word of Bible of True Potential's words, which we can't say. But I think, hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, you get a snapshot about the type of year we've had, a snapshot about some of our thoughts, the way in which we've pivoted, really. So we're here for you at all times to help you do more, as the jumper says, not do more Xmas, just do more with your money altogether. But before we go, Mark, Earl, Neil, David, any final thoughts or anything to say?
No, I think you've said it well. Do more with your money. We're here to. We are guided by, if you like, what we think clients want. Okay, and we're clients ourselves. We invest in our own company. We invest in our own funds. We, if you like, walk that talk. So, and our advisors are the same, and our investment managers are the same. We are as close to you as anybody can be because, we've probably got all our money invested in all of our own funds. So we think that's the way you do it. I don't think that you should buy a car from somebody in a Ford garage who's driving around in a Mercedes or vice versa. You live the brand, and that's what we do. So speaking as chairman here, Danny, this has been a fantastic year for business. I know it's been a bad year, and I apologise if you. Well, I don't want to apologise. I'm just aware that maybe people on the call, they maybe had loved ones die or whatever prematurely because of this. It is an awful disease, and there's no doubt about it. It could be quite nasty. In fact, it could be terminally nasty. So we've tried our best this year to ensure that things not only have worked, but have worked better for you. Because that's what we're set up for. We're set up to provide a service for you at a price that makes you a profit and the price that makes us a profit. So hopefully long may it last.
Indeed. Thank you, David. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you as well, ladies and gentlemen, for getting through 49 episodes of the podcast this year as well. We're back in January. So have a lovely new year, because as I say, this is going out after Christmas. So we hope you've had a lovely Christmas. Have a lovely new year. Fingers crossed for 2021 and it being a wee bit different to some of 2020. So all the best, everybody. Thank you very much. Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Subscribing to True Potential YouTube channel is quick and easy. Simply go to your YouTube app on your phone, type in True Potential and press the red subscribe option. You'll then be notified as and when new videos are released.